Okay, so these lectures are for week 15 and 16. Basically, in this series, we are going to complete the course, and these last lectures are the very, very important lectures. If I say that these last lectures are what for what we have been learning this course up till now, it would not be wrong to say this. So basically, if you really wish to build on this course and try to understand what you would be taught in the next courses in future, you should pay very close attention to these lectures and revise them and ask them and try to understand each concept involved. I would try to keep things very simple so that you get to learn the concept, and I would also like to draw the connecting links between previous concepts and try to summarize the all the syllabus, all the course here, all the concepts that we have studied till now. So let's begin learning about what we have learned till now, up till now in the course, even starting from the LCA. Let us take a very, very simple circuit that probably you should have mastered up till now, is an RC circuit with an R and C in series. And on one side, we are going to apply an input voltage, and across the capacitor uh, is the output that we are interested in. Let us call this. So this V is small, this V is small, is the circuit given to us in time domain. And if we start revising from the LCA concepts, the last chapters, the RC, the RL chapter, and then the RLC chapter, I have taken one of them. So please remember that while I am taking this RC circuit and going to develop a long series of concepts, I would require you, in order for you to learn, you should take this circuit and take the output across R. So this V naught T, instead of being across C, make R here and C here, and this V naught T would be taken across R. Try to develop a parallel working of what I would be doing in order to understand what I have been doing. If you are able to apply all the concepts I am going to teach to the RC circuit when the output is taken across R, then it means you are really understanding the concept. And then once you have done that, just to complete the idea, you can take an RL circuit with the output across L and try to solve that as well. So let us piece things one step at a time. If you remember, the very first thing that we learned, let me write this as the case 1, where the input voltage was actually a constant voltage. So let us take capital VS, the source voltage. Let us say this is the input voltage and it's a DC voltage. Let us assume this application of this voltage has been at t is equal to 0. So either there is a switch here that closes at t is equal to 0 and a voltage source is applied, or we can just write it in this unit step function definition. So and this was covered in LCA. Let me remind you this. We have not covered this in this course of ENA. But and if you remember, for such RC circuits where the sources or the source input source is DC, the case of a DC source, the output that we would be interested in is defined by an expression that we ultimately were able to work out, and that said that the output function would be equal to the value of the output at infinity, that is the final value of this output, plus the value of the output at the beginning, initial value, minus the value of the output at infinity, the final value, e raised to the power minus T minus switching time divided by tau, where tau for an RC circuit was defined to be RC. Tau was the time constant and it has its definitions. You can revise that. So tau was defined to be RC, and since here we have ut, therefore T naught in this expression is 0. Switching takes place at 0. And the final value of the voltage across a capacitor in such a setting would be that the capacitor would be fully charged to the voltage that the source is providing. So the final value would be Vs, and the initial value, let us assume the initial value before switching was that the capacitor was charged initially, and suppose it has some value capital V naught, V0 for the value of the output voltage at 0. Then if we put all this thing in all these values in this expression for V naught T, we would get V naught T is equal to V naught at infinity, which is Vs, a constant value. V naught 0 plus would be equal to V naught 0 minus, because it's the voltage across a capacitor, and a capacitor opposes sudden changes in its voltage. So V naught 0 minus would be with V naught 0 plus, and that is V naught minus Vs e raised power minus T minus 0 over RC. So this would be the expression, and if you remember, this part was inspired by the forcing function, that is the input, and its form, it is also DC. The forcing function is also DC. So this is known as the forced response or the steady state response. The word forced response, the term forced response is not very accurate here. Instead, we will call this the steady state response. And this part, as you can see, there is a decaying exponent here, is going to decay and vanish. It is known as the transient response. Transient response. If we rewrite this expression V naught T, let me again remind you that if we just draw this part, Vs, so Vs is a constant. And if we draw this thing, V naught minus Vs would be some value, DC value, whatever it is, say it is something like this, then this is a decaying exponent. And if we add these two, we are going to get something like this. So basically, we can see that ultimately, in fact, it will be something like this, not this one. So we can see that ultimately it is going to attain the value Vs, which is the final value of V naught. And initially it was Vs, V naught minus Vs, whatever this value is. Initially it was V naught. So if this is V naught minus Vs and this is Vs, adding these two is going to give us V naught. So this point is at V naught. So this is plotting of V naught T against T, just to give you an idea that the ultimate response contains some DC part and some decaying exponent part. This is the transient response, this is the steady state response. If we rearrange this, we can write them as Vs common in the terms that has Vs 1 minus e raised to the power minus T over RC, and plus V naught e raised to the power minus T over RC. Now this is another way of writing the same expression, nothing but the same thing, but you can very closely see that this part only depends on initial condition, initial energy stored in the capacitor, or the initial condition, or the initial state of the circuit. So this part is known as the zero input response. known as ZIR in literature. Zero input response means this would be the only input, only output if there was no source here applied. This was just a short circuit and we had an initial voltage here. So what will be the output voltage would be this thing. It does not depend on the input voltage Vs. There is no Vs here. However, if you look at this only depends on input. No initial condition in here, no V0 in here. So this is known as zero state response. It does not depend on the initial state of the circuit. So this is zero state response. In literature, it is known as ZSR. So if V0 would be zero, there the capacitor is not initially energized, this would be the output. So, and now just to remind you, remember this is a review. This was covered in LCA, and even if you have not understood several concepts there, you should try to understand them here. The sooner the better. So okay, let me also draw these parts as well. You can see that zero input response is a decaying exponent, so it is going to decay and vanish with time. And this part, if we draw it here, this part is a rising exponent actually that is going to saturate to a value, and that value is Vs, because this part is going to vanish and we are going to get Vs only here at the end. So this is the zero state response and this is zero input response. The response based on zero input, no input, only the initial conditions. Zero state means only input, no initial condition. So you can look at the nature of each of the terms and what is the meaning. Try to understand what is the meaning of each of the term that we use. Steady state response is only this part. It is steady. It does not change with time, or it does not vanish with time. The transient response, it just happened to be there at the start of when the things start happening, and then it vanishes out. So if someone says, okay, this is the circuit, this is a DC source, what will be the steady state output? You don't need to consider this part, because V0 is not what is really important. So the steady state output ultimately would be this thing, Vs. The capacitor will ultimately charge to Vs. And just to brush up a few other things. So suppose this whole thing is known by a system block diagram, and we have an input here and the output here. So here we have a voltage VIT and here we have V0T, and this whole thing is in a box. And if we say, okay, if we say for a particular VI, so suppose this VIT, this specified VI, this is the output, then what would be the output for a different VI dash T, writing it with a dash so that to differentiate with this VIT. Suppose it is some constant K multiplied by the previous VIT. This is the previous VIT, and suppose it is multiplied by some constant, say 2, say 3, and we now apply this to here. Then V0 dash T would not be able to K times the previous output. Remember this, if this is the case, then we cannot apply the principle of superposition. And superposition cannot be applied, or it's not linearly related. Why? Why is this so? So if the input is K times Vs, then we know from this writing that V0 dash T would be equal to the initial the source voltage, which is now KVS times 1 minus e raised power minus t over RC. Note this part, this term, e raised power minus t over RC, this is not dependent on initial condition. This term, this part, this exponent only is not dependent on the initial condition, is not dependent on the input value voltage as well. It is purely dependent on the circuit, the built up of the circuit. So the R and C in there, the element values and how they are connected together. So if they are connected differently, this would be this term may be different here. So the zero state response would be this plus the zero input response. If the input is now zeroed out, the output would exactly be the same term. So this k is not multiplied throughout, it's only multiplied with this term. That is why whenever we need to write systems as blocks and write some representation of system here, and we say input is say this x and the output is y, and if we multiply the input by k, some constant k, and the system is same, nothing changes in there, and the output is ky, then it clearly means for this to take place, this term must be 0. What does it mean? No zero state. Let me use the proper words. Zero state must be assumed for this to be true and superposition to be applied. So if there is some x1 with output y1 and some x2 with output y2, then the same system with input being a times x1 plus b times x2 for the output to be equal to a times y1 plus b times y2. Superposition, that is the definition of superposition. Then the system must be in the zero state form. There must be no initial condition. Only then this is possible. And if you now remember, this is exactly the reason why transfer function h of s that we studied now in the Laplace case, the transfer function that is h of s requires no initial condition or no source of energy enclosed in the system. Why this is true? Why this is so? Is because so that superposition is possible. So I hope this brush up of the previous concepts would refresh several of the concepts as well as help you look at things at with a different perspective. By the way, there are two other terms that are used in literature for representing the output of systems, and that is known as the forced response and the natural response. So the forced response and the natural response can be differentiated in this way, that the nature of the circuit, the response, the output part that links with the nature of the circuit, that is what the circuit is built up of, is the natural response. And the part which is based on the input, the forcing function, is known as the forced response. So we cannot write a single expression to identify the natural response and the forced response. Why? Because if you see, this is a natural response. It has the nature of the circuit in here, but it also has in here as well. So basically, this whole part somehow describes includes the natural response of the circuit. It depends on the nature of the circuit. Whereas this part is solely dependent on, it is also dependent on the forcing function as well as the natural response. So basically we cannot differentiate very accurately between the natural response and the forced response. The forced response has in its ingredients the natural response as well. So if we take this zero state response, no initial condition, then writing this part and saying this is the force response is not correct. Why? Because it depends on the forcing function as well as the the behavior of the circuit as well. So this is the case one where we were able to handle an RC circuit uh, with a DC voltage source. Now let us come to the other case that we studied in this course. What was that? Let us again have the same RC circuit with the output taken across the capacitor as usual, and we are required to find the output across the capacitor. But now if someone tells us that the input voltage is a sinusoid, now some maximum value of the sinusoid and cos of omega t, and the question is find the steady state part of the output, and we have covered this. We saw that we are going to solve this by using the concept of phasor. That is, the input capital Vi would now be equal to Vm of quantity, phasor quantity Vm angle 0 degree. Then we have in the frequency domain R as R and C as minus J over omega C. And the output would now be the capital V naught. Remember, V naught is the uh, capital V naught is also used to represent the initial voltage on the capacitor. So do not confuse. This is the phasor equivalent of the output voltage, and let us write it like this. So this is the initial capital bold V representing the initial voltage across the capacitor. So we are going to get a phasor quantity here, and we can solve this very easily to see that the phasor V naught, let me try to write this as a function of j omega, which truly it is. This is going to have uh, some inclusion. No, I think it will not be function of j omega. Let us skip writing this and let us write it like this. V naught would be equal to what will we have here, that is going to be multiplied by the input Vi. So this is a general or simple voltage divider circuit. The output across the capacitor impedance or reactance, and the total impedance is R plus minus J over omega C. We can use the voltage divider formula to see that the output would be minus J over omega C over R plus minus J over omega C. Now please pay close attention that this is the steady state output that we are dealing with. We are not going to write this again and again, but the concept of phasor was used only for sinusoidal steady state analysis. What does this mean? That the initial transient, so if there would have been some initial voltage here, its effect is long gone. Such type of output is long gone, and what is left with is the response, that is the zero state response, is what we are looking at. So we are going to get this, and we can write this in a better way. Let us just bring this down and multiply throughout. So we are going to get, or we can take this j over omega c common from here, minus j over omega c common from here. So it cancels out and we are left with 1 over 1 minus j omega r c. Am I right in this? I think with the plus sign. So you can check this. If I have done some mistake, do point it out. So this is that. So this is the input voltage phasor, the output voltage phasor, and this part is what we will gradually be increasingly be interested in, is describing the system. This part describes the system. So we can see its dependence on j omega. So we can describe this thing depends on omega. V naught does not depend on omega because this is a complex phasor quantity, does not have omega in it. Vi does not have omega in it, but this part depends on omega. So if someone says what would be, suppose vi is equal to 1 angle 0, what would be V naught for several different sinusoids? With that means with different values of omega. What about this graph? Let us say we have this graph to be made. We have omega here and we have VO here, output voltage here, V naught here, and the input is fixed as 1 angle 0. So the amplitude of the input sinusoid is 1 volt and minus 1 volt. It oscillates between that. And if this graph is to be made, how we are going to make it? So if we increase the value, if we start from omega 0, we can see that this term is going to be 0. 1 over 1 is 1. So output for, if Vi is 1, 1 into 1 would be 1. But what is going to happen if this omega is now increased? So say omega is 1, omega is 2, omega is 3. What kind of graph we are going to get? We have a problem here, and that is that this V naught is a complex quantity. V naught is a complex number that has some magnitude, V naught magnitude, and then there is a phase, let us call it theta naught in the Fowler form. So a complex quantity cannot directly be drawn on a graph because it has two different functions. This is a function of omega. This is also a function of omega. So we can take this one at a time. So what is going to happen to this? And then there another graph against omega saying what would be this theta naught, how would that be depending on omega. So when this omega is 0, we can see that it is 0. The phase is 0, means the phase of the output would be equal to the phase of the input. So we are interested in this graph. We can obviously try to work it out and draw this, but I am skipping drawing these graphs right now, and I would like to move forward with what we have done till now, and this is still a review, and I will come back to this graph later on. This is in fact what we are going to continue studying in this course. However, there is another remark that I would like to make. If now someone says what would be the output to this system, this circuit, the output is taken, the circuit is the same RC circuit, the output is taken across the capacitor, and the input, this is a source, say V1, the maximum amplitude cos omega 1t, and V2 cos omega 2t. Now we have a circuit with two voltage sources, both with different amplitudes and different frequencies. We cannot solve this in one go in a circuit except by using superposition. This is very important. If you have a circuit with sources of different frequencies, remember this omega is the radian frequency, is attached with the repetition of the input AC voltage source. if we have the same circuit with multiple sources of different frequency, we cannot use the concept of phasor and solve them in one go. We need to use superposition. That is, we take one at a time, find the output, and then sum all the outputs. So we short this, take this, then we short this, take this, and the two outputs are added together to get. So the overall output in the frequency domain, the capital V naught would be equal to, let us call this term to be some sort of a transfer function, because the input is transferred by multiplication with this thing to become the output. So this thing, let us call this the transfer function, or h, because this is a function of j omega. We write this as h of j omega. We saw that the transfer function is written as h of s. Here we are not dealing with s, we don't have s here. So this is a transfer function that is a function of j omega. So here that V naught would be equal to h of j omega 1 multiplied by V, let us call this V1 phasor, and plus h of j omega 2 multiplied by V2, this phasor. So this superposition is going to give us this thing, and this part would have a different frequency, this part would have a different frequency. In the time domain, we can write this V naught t to be equal to the magnitude of h of j omega 1 multiplied by the magnitude of V1 into cos of omega 1t, the voltage, the frequency of this source, plus the phase angle of this, let us call this phase angle theta 1, plus h of j omega 2, the magnitude of this thing into the magnitude of the input V0 into cos of omega 2 t plus theta 2. This theta 2 is the phase of h of j omega 2, theta 1 is the phase of this. So this would be the output, and we cannot sum these together because of the two different frequencies. So if we are somehow now interested in varying frequency of input and see response, by response we mean output. So how to handle this? Till now we have looked at things from the time point of view, that the output is a function of time. But now we are gradually trying to move towards circuits where we are interested in seeing how they behave based on if the input frequency is changed. This is something that we would later attribute to frequency response. So we will gradually move to that. However, before reaching that, we have a third case and probably a fourth case to look at. So if we continue this lecture, because it is still not including anything new in it, let me say this is a lecture 15.1 continued of ENA, allegedly of the 15th week. So I am putting this date, though I am a bit late in. So this paper is probably not good. We have a lot of marks from the other side of this black pen pointer. So let us just continue. So have we up till now handled such a case? So if the input voltage of the RC circuit is equal to some constant, say V1, and e raised to power minus, say, some constant alpha t ut, are we able to handle this in the time domain? We cannot. We have not seen how to solve exponential sources in time domain. Although if you remember from the course of differential equations, you can actually write a differential equation and solve it, but we have not seen this in LCA or ENA. So we cannot do this. But let us now come to the fourth case, where we learned that whatever VIT would be, and that is, let me mark it as the Laplace transform case. If the input, whatever the input is, if we know, if we can transform it to its Laplace equivalent or Laplace transformed version, and the output to be represented as its Laplace transform V naught of S, and the whole circuit is transformed to the frequency domain. So the C becomes 1 over SC. Here the parameter, like the parameter in the case of the phasor was j omega, here the parameter is S, and here is the input Vi of S, and here is the output across the C, that is V naught of S. Then we can solve this circuit. We are able to solve for this V naught of S, and again this is equal to that 1 over SC over R plus 1 over SC into the input. So this thing we know is known as the transfer function, because transfer function is the ratio of output over input. And now this depends on S, and here the input also depends on S, output also depends on S. This was not the case in the phasor case, by the way. So let us try to simplify this. We can write this as V naught of S is equal to, if we bring this down and multiply it throughout, we are going to get 1 over, let me write it like this. If we bring this S down only and multiply it and take 1 over C common, or 1 over R common, so we are going to get something like V over, 1 over 1 plus SRC. There are several ways of writing this. We can write this as 1 over RC over S plus 1 over RC. This is one form, this is another form. Whatever way you write it, it will carry some insight into the nature of the circuit and the response as well. So whatever way is convenient, we can use that. Or in fact, there is another way which we may later see to be more convenient, is to write it like this: 1 over 1 plus S over 1 over RC. So why is this so? We will look at it later on. However, here we have forgot a very important thing. I hope it occurred to you, because if I have forgotten that, you should have remembered that. But again, here we called this part the transfer function because it's the ratio of the output over input, output to the input. But what if the capacitor is initially charged? So there is initial energy on the capacitor. In that case, if you remember, we are going to make the Laplace or the frequency equivalent in this fashion. So here we are going to have the capital VI here across the capacitor. Remember, this is the equivalent. Both of these are the equivalent of, are to be replaced in place of this capacitor. So the voltage is not across the capacitor only. The V naught is not only across the capacitor. This source is something that is part of the capacitor. So it is representing that. So V naught is this thing. This is very important. 1 over SC. And this source, if you look up the table, is equal to V naught over S. V naught is the initial energy of the capacitor. And if we solve this, we can solve this using whatever things we best know. So suppose this current into the circuit is flowing this through the source, and this is IS, then we know that IS would be equal to VI of S divided by and here we have this thing as well. So Vi minus V naught over S divided by R plus 1 over Cs. And then we need to find this VO, V naught. VO would be once we know this Is, we know this VO can be written as the voltage across this minus this voltage. It can be written as 1 over SC into I of S, the voltage across this capacitor in the frequency domain, and this voltage source negative, sorry, the positive of this source, because it is in the same polarity as this one, we are going to get V naught over S. Or we can also write V naught as Vi minus the drop across the resistor. So I of S into R. Whatever way, we can now put Is into this and ultimately be able to write that V naught would be equal to Vi I is minus I is Vi. Vi of S is being written as Vs. Vi minus V naught over S divided by R plus 1 over Sc. So we can write this V. Okay, now there is a confusion here. This is the initial voltage on the capacitor. This is the output. So don't mix them up. V naught output voltage. We should have used a different label, but I hope you can keep this different. So the output voltage, the Laplace transform of the output voltage would be equal to, we have Vi here as well, Vi here. So we take Vi common in both, 1 minus 1 over R plus 1 over Sc, and then minus minus plus, we get V naught over this S comes down and multiplies this to get this. What do we get? Something here. So if we take this 1 over Sc common, we are going to get SCR here. 1 over Sc, S cancels with this S, and we are going to have this 1 over C. So we get V naught over C here, I think. Oh, we actually missed this R. So this is I. So this I is multiplied by R. So okay, so this was in the denominator. We are going to get RC in the numerator. And we can solve this to see that V naught would be equal to V. We can write this as Vi, take the LCM, R plus 1 over Sc. I think we can simplify this thing. We can take 1 over Sc common to get SCR. Okay, let us keep doing whatever we have started with. if we multiply throughout, by SC, we are going to get SCR plus 1 minus SC. Somehow this is not feeling good to me, but I may be wrong. This should have cancelled actually. Let me solve this again. 1 minus 1 over R plus 1 over SC. We can write this as SC